Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And it's Friday again. So here we go. And first up tonight, we have Peter Gutierrez. Did I get your last name right?
Yeah, that's close enough. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking. Though.
How is it?
Gutierrez. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
no, you
you.
did it. It was fine. Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be reading from your forthcoming book or recently released book, From Bad to Worse, right?
Yeah, it just came out this week, so thank you. Yeah.
If at the end
I
of
appreciate
if when you're done reading, you want to drop a link to where people can order it in the chat, I'm sure Rudy will post that up on Twitter as well, and people
Oh,
can
I
order it.
appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll find a link or something. Thank you though. Yeah. Um, okay, so the story I'm reading is called Rodentia. And I guess I should say first that if there are any um long pauses, really long pauses, or coughing. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry
If there are
about
any
that. I
long
think
pauses or
somebody
coughing
joined in.
fits,
Yeah.
it's um it's just my asthma acting up. So just politely ignore it and it'll pass. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, so the story is called Rodentia. It begins with a phony epigraph. So I'll read that first. To have thoughts that you can convey easily is to risk a disastrous mistake. When crossing the street, you should look not only both ways, but also up and also down and also inside. Pavel Fermi in the late morning of the 21st century. By the time he reached the first and perhaps final landing in his stumble down the stairs of life, Pavel would have settled for remembering rather than experiencing. But even that was proving elusive. He knew his psyche was curlicued into a fetal position, but there was nothing to be done about it. At this point, he just had to listen attentively, and emerge from his various crouch positions when commanded to do so. Ah, listening. The truth and all its dark sparkles were nestled there, in the sounds of unknown origin. The second you actually saw something, Pavel felt, it became vulgar. The trick was to avoid looking directly at anything you wanted to know more about. It was just like when you're a kid and they tell you not to look at the sun directly. If you do, your eyes turn to candy, and the candies melt. Although incurious as to whether he was unique in this respect, Pavel had become accustomed to isolation long before the mind flu hit and the city locked itself away. Subsisting largely on tap water and the dried beans that he whipped up in his pressure cooker, as well as the approved videos that he'd watch on his telephone under his unwashed bed covers, he often reflected on how he was the most fortunate version of himself possible. This was what he was made for. Others, not so much. He could smell their complaints in all the rays of light. They missed their dinner parties, drink specials, families. Moreover, they missed the long, loud whoosh of the latest and greatest, the wet marketplace of ideas, the way they spread the Sunday papers all over the place and sent each other terribly interesting links on their newest telephones all day long. Sometimes he'd seen them at sidewalk eateries and bus stops, waiting in line, never looking up. How refreshing that he no longer had to engage with such people, never had to rub words with them. Unlike him, they probably didn't have amber orange pill vials resting in sock drawers. Some of these chalky dangers went way back. In fact, Pavel often wondered if the medicinal properties inside them were changing even as they remained unchanged without. He could bin them, of course, but he liked holding on to them as a kind of backup plan. One day, a filthy mourning dove landed on his windowsill. It peered inside, leaning on one bird foot and then the other, as if confused about its role, no longer understanding it was meant to be an idea. Soon it was night again, though. Then again, day. Time now simmered rather than flowed. The dove never returned. The approved videos Pavel watched on his telephone were not only curated, but categorized. Sexy booties, foodstuffs, the sports, pop happenings, weather fun, and current styles. All the biggies. Daily word puzzles were also pushed onto his telephone. Although their ostensible purpose was to keep the minds of the populace sharp, they were always either too easy or too hard for Pavel, and he quickly grew frustrated. He decided they were for those who took pleasure in being smart, and he rated himself as too intelligent to fall into that silky confinement. The telephone itself had actually been a free upgrade because his old model had grown too stupid to keep up with the network. This one, too, Pavel sensed, was becoming moronic, probably as a result of all the inane content. He had to watch it, to be sure, but the telephone had to let it course through its veins and use its voice box. That had to take a toll. Attractive people were living in his apartment building, and when Pavel needed to go get his mail, he scurried away from them like a pigeon before dogs. He made a point of never looking at himself fully in the mirror, so he could only imagine what he was sparing them. At all times wearing a blue and white baseball cap, one that he'd found in the neighborhood park the previous year, when parks were uncomplicated things. Pavel was aware he was aging dramatically, but had no desire to check on the details. He could run his hand through his hair and get a sense of its weight. He could purse his lips and see the gray bristles that had accumulated below his nose. He could remove his baseball cap for 3 or 4 seconds, stare at it, and wonder about the brand of beer promoted and what it tasted like. Almost every night, in the middle of the night, he heard animals in the walls. At first, Pavel imagined them rats, but he knew that was too old school, too fanciful. They had to be mice, or, given the frenetic heaviness of the sounds, squirrels. He would listen to them scrambling vertically, sometimes diagonally, often dislodging plaster or something else that crumbled audibly. In the 2 or 3 hours, he'd be up every night, in the middle of the night, watching the approved videos on his telephone, under his bed covers. He knew it wasn't healthy to miss so much sleep night after night, so he chose to blame his insomnia on the hidden rodentia. But the truth was, unsavory dreams were what woke him, and the wall clatter merely added some bleak accompaniment. Pavel hadn't been tested for the mind flu yet, and that was a point of pride. He would see how long he could make it without going through that rigmarole. He had nothing against science or the government, except that they involve people, and as a result, they already exhibited signs of spoilage. The mind flu was simple, really, in its scope and approach, and as long as you adhered to a self-monitoring regimen, you could probably spot the symptoms. In its simplest terms, it made you care too much about things. Everything became horn sections blaring the score to Creature from the Black Lagoon. You went kind of woo-woo. Pavel wrote it in soap scum. Woo-woo. Then he swapped in zeros. Woo-woo. On any given day, it was a toss-up as to whether he would take a shower or do the dishes. Most days, it was neither. As a result, foul odors would arise in the vicinity of the drains as hair or food scraps would sit there holding a group meeting. Pavel would eventually force himself to take action, and his motivation was usually not to be discovered dead amid such conditions. Afterwards, as a kind of reward, he would retreat to his bed once again to watch his telephone and lie very still. During the day, however, there were no critters to be heard in the wall above his headboard, And that's what made him decide that it was the squirrels who were the culprits. While the sun was out, they were no doubt frolicking in the park where he found his baseball cap. Come night, they retreated behind the plaster to stay warm under whatever they used for bed covers. At night, they sounded like this, sometimes chasing each other, sometimes trapped in private hidey holes. He thought about that park again. Was there now graffiti or chalk writings on pavement that carried the mind flu? Twice a month on Saturdays, Pavel ordered food online and it would arrive an hour or two later. His instructions were explicit. Buzz the buzzer, knock on the door once, leave the parcels at the threshold, then retreat back into your hidey hole to earn your tip. On more than one occasion, Pavel had wondered if he could work out a similar arrangement with his landlord, or perhaps one of his neighbors, regarding the mail. As things stood, he had to organize everything in his life around that weekly field trip to the first floor. On his way there, he would hear others in the echoey stairwell 2 or 3 floors above. They seemed to be enjoying neighborly conversations, but if he was being honest, he didn't listen closely enough to discern if there were multiple voices or really just one. Pavel would return from these journeys to dump his mail on an untidy surface and forget about it. He would remember it only when, much later, he would knock it to the floor in the course of his lumberings. He had little interest in mail and those who might be trying to contact him, and only slightly more in the neighbors with whom he had once chatted so amiably. Where was Sandor these days? And Guy? And Shelley? These were powerful personalities whose laughter and criticism of building management were loud, outgoing. Nowadays, though, there was nothing but a gigantic absence that, in its own way, was equally outgoing. Gradually, Pavel began to wonder if he was creating his own problem by fetching the mail so dutifully. What if he never went to collect it? There would be little impact on him. The few checks he still received were never actually received anyway. They went into his bank account electronically and out again, as if by some natural digestive property. Besides, if his mailbox started overflowing, someone would eventually carry the mail up to him, and that could mark the beginning of the arrangement. He would leave them some spare change or cooked beans for their trouble. I am someone else's scenery, Pavel whispered one evening. He tried to keep the I lowercase in his thoughts, but his ego kept asserting itself. I am a symptom of everything that's happening, he reflected. A symptom has no self-awareness. True. But a symptom can express itself. A symptom can have freedom. In the meantime, he continued violating the human rights of that mid-century chair over there, using its leathery leather as a resting place for the damp lid of his pressure cooker. Over the subsequent months and minutes, Pavel stopped watching the approved videos when he would watch them. They were good for audio pleasure only. He'd take in the garbled shouts, too loud guffaws, theme music, voiceovers, and large doses of the unidentifiable. They were enough. They contained the wisdom. To watch the accompanying images, or anything really, was facile and unintelligent. Also, over time, he started to suspect that those outsized characters, neighbors like Sandor, and Carol, and Jojo, and Helmut, had fallen victim to the mind flu. After all, these were the same boisterous folks who exhibited no hesitation, walking right up to you, starting a conversation, and then yelling back over their shoulders to other neighbors as soon as they were sensed nearby. Extroverted people like that, they were probably soaking in sickness. Soon, though, Pavel started to approach the truth of the matter. He put it together, bit by bit. In the middle of the night, as he attended to his telephone, under the covers and listened to the invisible scurrying over his head. First, it wasn't just the extroverts who were missing from the hallways and stairwells, but all his neighbors. There had not been a conversation filtered through closed doors or a yammering out of opening elevators in weeks, perhaps longer. Slowly, and without any trace of remorse or anxiety, it dawned on him that he was the only remaining human resident in the building. He coupled this realization with the fact that the night creatures were growing emboldened, chasing each other up and down and along the ceiling, as if they had fashioned some kind of wonderland for themselves in there. They were much noisier now, and when they thought he was sleeping and therefore not paying attention, they made gnawing sounds that hinted at their true design. Soon they would break through the walls and rule the now empty apartments. They would hoard and hide any nutrients they could find, and if Pavel came across them on the weighted mailboxes, they'd probably accost him with friendliness and questions and building gossip. You can't get the mind flu, he reasoned, if you are already born with it, if you already were it. Or maybe the mind flu is the true healthiness. Something. In such careless moments, they, whoever they were, gave away not only themselves, but also the mind flu itself, and had made quite an impact on local society. If you cared too much, you hurt people. You did things. The idea was to stop caring. If you didn't, you could hurt yourself too. You were people too, don't forget. Early one mid-afternoon, Pavel tried to think of you. Of course, he was unsuccessful in this endeavor. He's never even met you, after all. But you deserve to know. You really do. The neighbors who were scurrying, they already had a mind flu, not the one that was currently all the rage, but an ancient one endemic to the species. Ah, maybe he was onto something. Something. To celebrate this victory of deductive reasoning, Pavel turned down the volume on his telephone and pressed his hair-covered face to the walls and called their names. Sandor, he would say. Guy. Shelley. The only response was more scurrying, more gnawing. It was possible they wanted his help. He didn't know. In time, though, he was sure he'd learn their language. Then they would see that he wasn't the lone figure they had gossiped about, but a person deeply concerned about world events. Meanwhile, all they were capable of was sometimes chasing each other pointlessly, sometimes trapping themselves in their hidey holes. But Pavel was careful. He'd never make the equivalent mistake. After all, he had his little telephone, and it kept him connected to the world. He made sure it was always charging, even on those sometimes nights when his blue and white baseball cap would slide off and hit the floor like a head. That's it.
Peter, that was phenomenal. I love the prose of this story. I love how concise and meticulous everything unwinds here. Like just on a sentence level, what you've done here is wonderful because that concision and directness to your prose is so perfectly suited to the story you're telling here because it mimics the experience of quarantine. It mimics the experience of somebody who is initially lucid, right? Who's initially under control, slowly coming unwound. And I think if the prose was more wild, if the prose was more unhinged, the reader wouldn't get lured into this sense of security and cautious monotony that exists in the story that is so effective at mimicking the experience that the main character is having. And it's just really well done. There are so many wonderful lines in here too, Peter. And I dropped a few of them in the chat and other people did as well. I love the final line though. The baseball cap would slide off and hit the floor like a head. Like in a story that's like about the fear of like it's about anticipating madness, right? The ambiguity of that final line is so fucking chilling and so wonderfully put. It's a great story, Peter. Do you want to tell us a little more about the book, maybe, in case somebody heard you
I
and wants to
Yeah,
know?
I guess so, but thank you so much. I'm ill prepared for all your kind words because I know that you are very generous and are very perceptive, and because I know you do this after people read, but I'm still a little speechless. Everything you said was is uh great. I'm glad everything landed like that. um I'm not sure what else there is to say on that front, but again, thank you. I always thought of the story as kind of a, um, I mean, it's just kind of funny. I still think of it as a misery tourism story, even though it wasn't published there, because in my mind, I don't know if this is interesting, but in my mind, I lose track of, you know, when stories came out or when I wrote them or maybe where they, and for some reason in my mind I sometimes flip this and think that you published it. So it's gratifying to hear that
I
that
wish we could have. I
that
wish we could
that
have.
maybe you would have, right? Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
nice of you. So I appreciate that. And no, I mean I'll try to paste in a link to the book. It's I don't know what else there is to say about the book. It's all stories like this. It's called From Bad to Worse. Well, maybe not all like this, but some of them are like more genre-y horror stories and crime stories, a little more conventional. Um, and some of them are even a little further out there, maybe even than this one, like the one story in the book that was published in by Misery Tourism. Um, but thank you. I appreciate everyone listening, and thanks again for having me. Yeah, I'll drop the link at some point. But thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Peter. And the name of the collection, once again, is From Bad to Worse. Check it out. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yep.
Kat
Thanks.
is up next.
Hey, okay, I'm gonna read one poem and I have the link to it, and I think I sent the link to it, but I'll just
Yes,
send
I
it.
have the link. I'm dropping it in now.
Okay, cool. Okay, I wrote this a little while ago. It is called Gambit. I never wanted you to see this, but this is what I do, alone with my body. Creeping thoughts of your lip curling as you enter me like a knife. Sometimes my hands are so cold it's like I'm a reptile, like I left the living. It's a relief when you wedge yourself under the red hot coals a while and I can suck down your fumes first, like any good fiend. I lie that I don't know how to do this simply. I require a temperature, hands on my throat, head partitioned, and running a match of 5D chess on the other screen, being king, queen, pawn, game, hunter, and gun. Hypothetically, holding me with that look in your eye is enough. No better way to defrost than body heat, the warm mouth of someone who can't always say what he wants but can't help letting it off like steam. You love this rabid beast you keep shooing from the house with a litany of ever-widening brooms. We talk sometimes, marooned together outside your door, him lurking in the bushes while I summon the courage to knock. He says I should be honest. I say there's a wrinkle. If I admit the game hurts this much, I'm worried you'll stop. Don't.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. I love it. First of all, I just want to talk about something on the level of layout and construction because I love how you formatted Don't here. Because the, a lot of it times, like people will get like showy with the way they format poetry, right? Sometimes to excess. But what I love about what you've done here is because you've been so restrained in your formatting up to that point, the don't comes as a true authentic surprise, right? And in fact, I could fully imagine someone reading this poem and turning the page without ever seeing don't because of the way they're you because it's not it's beyond the edge of the final preceding line, right? So you could easily imagine a human being reading this poem without the don't and walking away with a completely different perception. And that's pretty cool. And it's cool like given the like tension and ambiguity hiding behind the surface of this poem, right? Given that this is a poem about someone whose thoughts and feelings are complex and conflicted, to have like the reader potentially walk away from it with one of two possible meanings is, I think, pretty cool. Now, just on the level of like some of the individual lines here, I love the 5D chess line, and I love it because it keeps fucking going, being king, queen, pawn, game, hunter, and gun. Like it starts in a fairly conventional place and then gets like more deconstructive and more weird and like what I like the most is that at the end it completely abandons the conceit of it being chess at all and becomes something like monumentally more sinister. And there are multiple moments like that where like there's a different version of this poem that's just like a romance poem or just like a sexual tension poem or whatever. But this this poem gets so insidious. Not only the hunter and gun who come out of nowhere, who aren't even pieces in the fucking game, right? But also like him lurking in the bushes, like while I summon the courage to knock. Like this is insidious because like who is that, right? The poem is ambiguous. Like, is this another version of the like potential lover, or is this another version of the narrator? Is this a third like lurking figure? Like, so it's so good because in the way the fact that it's left unexplained in the poem makes it so much more insidious. Anyway, and there's a lot of that here. There's a lot of that here where this poem is like tightly tightly coiled in a way that it's not quite it's not quite like romantic or benign, but it's also like not quite like a threat, you know? And the fact that it's like balanced on that point or coiled in that way, I think makes it more effective. So it's a great poem, Kat. Thanks so much for reading.
Thank you. I just wanted to say one thing, which is that I never do formatting stuff. Like I will make stanzas, maybe. I never do anything like that. So I'm glad that, it landed and that it was actually something because it's not like I don't it sounds really pretentious, but I don't take decisions like that like lightly, I guess, when I'm putting stuff together. So yeah.
No, and it makes sense. And now that you mention it, like thinking back to when I blurred Thumbsucker, yeah, you're right. I don't remember seeing any like formatting tricks or anything in there. Well, you saved this one to deploy it very effectively, I think. So thank you, Kat. And well, Jan is up next, except I believe Jan is going to warg into Rudy again.
I'm being warged.
Okay. So Jan as Rudy, what do you have for us tonight?
Okay, so Jan's piece for tonight is called The Young Lee Harvey Oswald. And I have a note here from the author. It says, this piece uses lines from the Bach Van Wert song, two songs, Afrikaanhart and Delare. They are noted in parentheses. They're also in Afrikaans, so it should be obvious. That's a note. I'm not sure if that note was for me or for everybody, but I read it anyway. So cool. So part one. In Wurin Blood Vinek my new. Stuck in the American Veld, cracked in between rolling hills of Pennsylvanish, tract housing, homes impossible to imagine, anything human moving inside, and gutted steel mills, and the hills pitted by Accutane strip mines. In Schuylkill County, there is no coal. From the sky, you can see the holes and pits shafted deep into the ground. God's imperial country land, sixth kingdom of Rome, marriage of Babylon and Persia, King Koresh, David, King Messiah, you have left us alone in the wilderness with man-eating federal lions and collapsing militias and police soldiers coming for us. Hold deep my heart, save Wortels Lee. Vir you, die Leo, then die West Transvaal. America is Suez, Africa. America is Israel. America is the USSR. America is Qing, China. Every major city is a Bantustan, court eunuchs and government. All of my friends are getting old and moved to the Democratic People's Republic of Texas. Movement 2, the Suburban Bush War. At age 8, I dig a very big hole on our tiny front lawn with my bare hands, a Viet Cong style stake pit to kill my twin brother. I am a third grade militia movement. I am running out of ammunition. I am an alien invader from Mars, an intrusive species here to kill small birds. I have a speech impediment and am totally incoherent to strangers. I am hopelessly in true love with our parish priest, bearded Father Michael Perez, and play with dolls on rain-wet sidewalks. When my father was born, there was still some Japanese soldiers out on rocks in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. My jungle is humid and smells like grass, a labyrinth of neatly partitioned streets and hedgerows and tall fences minotaured by angry dogs and mean kids who hate me. At night, in this geometric grid, this intergalactic roach motel, I sit by my bedroom window and look for UFOs. At 9, I realize that I have no friends and don't care. Commandos shouldn't have any friends. My mission is not conducive to friendship. The prescient Republic of Beetlejuice is bigger than anyone's birthday party. Our colonies orbit Gliese 667. We have outposts in Sarah Bauer's treehouse, and at the corner store 2 blocks away, the prescient Republic of Beetlejuice is better than gross polluted Sol 3. That's what I tell Barbie and G.I. Joe. Me and my twin brother work together. Our commanding officer is a bug that I keep in a jar under our bed. Our methods differ a lot. He likes to light greasy dumpsters on fire and tries to make bombs using old 2-liter jugs of Pepsi and fistfuls of nails coated in toothpaste. I run reconnaissance in the big field behind our house. Tree line framed by late autumn, blue sky and buzzing electric pylon wires, stalking through thick, unmowed grass and trampling down a landing site by the haunted steel mill. My hair is greasy and long, and I am sweating in uniform and wetting myself, armed to the teeth and missing one. He treats me different when he's around them, part of an unspoken infiltration. At bedtime, in matching pajamas, we speak a different language from them, from any language in this alien star system. This is what we spoke on our home planet, but eventually he forgets. In a tall, hostile hierarchy are our natural enemies, all birds in the sky, our sole allies on this undeveloped rock, soon to be turned into a parking lot, our bus, which I commune with after dinner when the sun is setting and the street is red, turning over rocks and awaiting orders. All the trees are waving goodbye as I climb, rifle slung across my back, third eye chalked onto the front of my plastic stall helm. Barbie dismembered for good luck, hanging by the neck and swinging from the barrel, naked iron sights aimed through the window, dry firing at him.
Oh man,
That's it.
holy shit, Jan. Jan, Jan, I am really in awe of the poems that you've been presenting you've been presenting through Rudy these last few weeks at Misery Loves Company, because like a lot of back when we were publishing and back when we published some of your work, I remember publishing a number of short stories and essays and stuff like that. And even from what I've seen on your Substack, I don't recall much poetry. And so I am uniquely I'm in awe of what a talented poet you are. And I love I love to think about this poem like in contrast, or not so much in contrast, but like in comparison to the one you had Rudy read last week, because you seem to be on this kind of like wonderful, like dark Americana kick where like there. This poem is another instance where, like, if you stripped it out of context, right? If you looked at just like the iconography of the poem, just like the subject matter, removed from the larger context, like there is that like unmistakable like strain of Americana there. Like, like the Barbie dolls and the playing in the backyard and the toy rifles and all of that. Like there's something oddly like patriotic and wholesome about all of those things. And yet, of course, in this poem, as in your last poem, it's all viewed through this uniquely dark lens, since we're viewing it through the lens of like Lee Harvey Oswald, right? And the way you employ that to like add this insidiousness, add this like lurking ugliness to all of these different symbols and items that we usually have like that usually have like nostalgic connotations, right? It's so good, Jan. And I hope, and especially that last fucking line, the dry firing at him, like that is so perfect, because like a dry fire, for anyone who doesn't know, it's firing an unloaded weapon, right? But it also has the connotation of being like a test fire, and the idea that this like childish act of play is this kind of moment of preparation for what Oswald would ultimately do for the Kennedy assassination. It's such a gorgeously realized final line. It's so perfect. Jan, my point is you need to stick with it. This isn't just a couple of poems. This is like an incumbent collection of poems. Like a collection of poems is coming to life here before our eyes, I think. Anyway, thank you, Jan. Thank you, Rudy. This is good shit.
Dan, that
Yeah.
was really fucking good. And like I think I mentioned in a PM, there's like that child soldier Americana vibe to it, which
Yeah.
is unique to like America. Is like, so you capture that so perfectly. How like at once it's both, it's both referencing child soldiers in other countries, but also here. So the vibe is definitely that, and it feels really genuine. And the minutia, some of the minutia of it, like the communication with the brother, like how to communicate in different terms when other people are around. That's just so fucking good. That's so true to experiences like a kid in America. So it's good.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Rudy. And Artie is up next.
Hello.
Hey, Artie, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Chris, I thought could I like defer to be next? Like someone can go now. I just
Oh, yeah,
want a
sure.
couple,
Yeah. Yeah, you need
couple
a
of minutes.
minute to find your.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem at all. Actually, Rudy is up next then.
Yeah, just give me a
Hmm?
second. I have to share.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm gonna read some poetry. And I'm also gonna share my screen because I have a special guest reader again.
Oh, here we go.
Oh shit. Okay. So I got that tweeted out. So I'm going to. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna share. Wait till the end to share my screen. So I'm going to probably just read for now.
Gotcha.
Fuck yeah. So this first poem is called Social Justice Woketards Remade Return of the King and Race Swapped Denethor and Gender Swapped him too and cast my mom as her. And just a second, my thing is actually misbehaving here. Oh, sorry. You guys hear me? My mic, I had dropped my mic earlier, so it's kind of dog shit right now.
Yeah, you're breaking up only a tiny bit. You were during Jan's thing too, but
Okay.
not so much that we can't hear you.
Dick. Okay. All right. Pretty much the only thing I know about my brother Philip is that he died of cancer. Woot. This is me giving a fuck, however many years later. This is me rubbing his ashes on my face. Double black face, black comedy, but not like Steve Harvey. Lord, I apologize. White comedy. Human ashes are grayish white. I forgot. I didn't know my brother. Just a part of him I saw in some neurotic behavior from my mom. Was I sheltered much? Here is your sign. Blue collar comedy. You know what else is funny? A complex from losing your child, lol. I'm the last one. Nothing left in the tank by the time I arrived. A North Country fuel drum during the ice storm of 1998. I survived the ice storm of 1998, and all I got was a D- on my earth science project and a passive aggressive talking to from mommy. My data collection jars were frozen to the fucking ground. What's the deal with that? I should stop holding grudges against random teachers who happen to be Seinfeld characters and non-random family members that happen to be dead. If I throw my brother's cremains box against the wall and shatter it, will that let his, like, essence rub off on me? I'm rubbing the lamp of the Make-A-Wish Foundation genie who lives with him in his urn, asking for our places to be exchanged. Mine and Philip's. Yes, I wish that. This next one is called Bullet with Tsetse Fly Wings. I probably mispronounced it because I'm bad at pronouncing things tonight and always. There's a fairy godfather who randomly turns finger guns into real ones. And when he's loose in the biddy, the gang task force has a field day shooting black men that are armed, actually. And Gran Torino ends like 40 minutes earlier because Clint Eastwood just takes the gangbangers by surprise, shooting them through the head with his cocked finger. And Travis Bickle is a gun-related suicide, as the statistics warn. When I'm experiencing my sleeping sickness, apnea because I'm fat, derogatory, I put a finger gun to my other head. You know, the one that's for fun, not fighting. And I blow my dick off clean while I'm masturbating, a gunshot out of my hand like in the movies. This one is called The Tiny Master of Evil. It's about Vygar from League of Legends. Faceless little monster dropped a comment on me while I was caged, despite my anger, and then blamed me for my own death, while the whole team just QQ'd in grayscale. Lever Buster is a thing, so instead of leaving, I just left hex nooses that, to my credit, Tribunal did contain the letters GG. And my God, every game of League I play just makes me want to prevent myself as a communist, doing another left turn so I can go to China, climb high on the party, get appointed economic minister, then start a retaliatory trade war with the US, because then, you see, it would be unpatriotic to play 10-cent owned properties like LOL, maybe illegal. And then, see, I return home and jump back into my old life, become a red-blooded Republican, right turn Clyde, and then I can never start up League again to mid against the Vygar as Nico, because I will have become Nico in real life, a masking autistic chameleon for whom each mask is also a respirator. So I guess more like Vader. Oh wait, I'm already that now. Give me a noose, I'll hang myself. It's just a short nig. Is that a short rope? This one is called robots.txt. That's a picture I generated with Midjourney. This one is a prayer to the AI gods who will soon overtake us. Yeah. Please, AI, web crawl over my content. I am content. Immortalize me in the data set without my permission, even though I'm giving it right now. When I die, opt in all my storage services and documents so I can expose myself to OpenAI. When I live again, I will be in a missile, Raytheon, joyfully headed towards nine-fingered Palestinians, just children to your eyes, while they try to make peace signs. And nothing I'm saying is ironic. Please, benevolent or malevolent tech bros, read my screeds about world building or game design. Nobody else will. And if you use my setting, a future Earth where writing is illegal because men fear being turned into fiction, please know that you are honoring me and my vision for a shittier universe. Content benediction. O masterful assembler, aggregator, and steward of our combined cultural detritus, great Pacific garbage patch grower, consume my edgy work like the fire consumed Lewis Carroll's diaries, but a fire that remembers, straining out only the useful, a fire that erases transgressions. Okay, so this last one, I actually am not going to read. I'm going to have a special guest, an esteemed scientist who's been dead for a pretty long time, read it. So I'm going to share my screen. The text is here, but I'm going to share my Winamp or whatever. So let me see if that will work. Winamp. Okay. I'm going to minimize that. So do you see the Winamp thing here?
I do.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, whoops. My bad. Hold on. I have to pause the share. I have to stop the share actually, because I did not share audio. Forgot that you have to actually do that. So Winamp. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, J. Robert Oppenheimer.
And I saw a slam poetry video performed by Rutgers University poets. It was called Rape Poem to End All Rape Poems, which to me suggests a hidden rape poetry arms race. Hardworking young women, and men too, to paraphrase the poets Brooks and Dunn, courting ooze, and finger snaps in the experiential physics laboratories of humanities colleges. Camera phones inhale the data. What do you call an elite cadre of rape poem fashioners? People analyzing the science of rape poem construction, splitting hairs and atoms. Working on their own Manhattan Project, well immersed in a cosmos of unprocessed rape kits and kicker bro egos that sings to them like that scene in the Nolan film. Ludwig Göransson soundtrack, playing from a Spotify account somewhere, while matrices of intonation and affect are calibrated precisely to minimize uncertainty. I guess some exploitation filmmakers might call them a rape squad, an A team of highly specialized minds brought together by a common task. 19-year-olds sequestered in the RU Writing Center saying shit like, we're in a race against Harvard, and I know what it means if Harvard has a banger. I have to wonder about the team's J. Robert Oppenheimer figure. Do they question the ethics of making a rape poem so keen, so caustic, so viscerally annihilating that it might forever destroy the verdant landscape of rape poetry? Do they fear a future of increasingly potent rape poems? Those that will shake the firmament of this newly christened era of empowered rape poetry, like a shaken baby, like the shockwaves shook Bikini Atoll. Is there a point where a chain reaction is proposed, one that could get out of control? A bro in the audience gains some awareness of his wrongdoing, then another, then another, then 30 more, 60 more, 120 to the power of 120 more, until all the bros are woke and there is no space, no need anymore for rape poetry or any poetry, because all the woke bros are now writing poetry too about their feelings. On every street, a bro snapping his fingers. On every tongue, a couplet. In every admissions letter to university. A well-written, compelling account of life-changing epiphany. A poem singularity spiraling into total poetic entropy. Overloading literature departments nationwide worldwide, overloading literature itself, overloading nature, until verse is indistinguishable from everyday language, until a poet voice becomes the default manner of speaking, until someone references a tome, somewhere, whenever they come, until life is a text, until life is hypertext, until life is a text adventure game, until the guardian from Return to Zork appears and says, "We seem to be working at cross purposes. I must relieve you of your belongings until you learn."
Man,
That's it.
holy shit, man. Holy shit. I, I, you motherfucker, you guys always do this to me. If you know that like one of these is going to get me, you always save it for last so that I can't speak when. Okay, so the entire concept of the rape poem singularity in the like in the Oppenheimer poem, right? In the poem to the rape poem to end rape poems poem. It's so good. It's so good. And it's such a hilarious like play on if you've seen Oppenheimer, there's a scene with Einstein where they're like, well, could if we if we set off the atom bomb, could it like ignite the atmosphere and destroy the world? You're taking that
This happened in
concept.
real life, by the way. Sorry, I did not to interrupt, but that actually was something they thought might happen
Oh yeah,
in real
absolutely,
life.
absolutely. But like that concept of like that not only Oppenheimer, but a lot of movies about science and a lot of writing about science and a lot of writing about war and these kind of high stakes disciplines, right? The like the writing and discourse of unintended consequences, the way you skewer that in this poem, and whether it's a skewering of the discourse around science or a skewering of literature or a skewering of literary pretensions or whatever, like, or all of the above, you do it so magnificently. The like way. The way the rape poem singularity unfurls in this poem is so good. It's so like brilliantly absurd, and the way you just follow it out, like all of the woke bros writing poetry and snapping their fingers, and like the way it overwhelms literature departments and like destroys poetry as a discipline. It's also funny, and it's also good. I also, man, I'm working backwards through them. Robots.txt. I love this poem, and I particularly love the like benediction, the quasi prayer that closes this poem. Like just as a piece of poetry. Like even remove like let's not talking about like the content of that benediction, the way it's structured and the way it's worded, the way that you form this like deeply nihilistic prayer, right? That has the cadence of a prayer, that has the cadence of a benediction, and feels like one. It's so well written, and of course the content of it's beautiful. Like I love the Great Pacific Garbage Patch Grower as like as like a term for God, as like a positive term for God, right? Like this is the God that just keeps contributing to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That's gorgeously written. The fire that consumed Lewis Carroll's diaries, like that whole section of it is just gorgeously written and presented. And of course the concept here is wonderful too. The idea of like giving yourself over to the data set that would feed the AI for completely malevolent reasons. Not because you want to see like the growth of human knowledge and like the growth of human technology, but because you want like some part of your deeply hateful essence to be preserved for eternity in a way that might hurt people in the future. Like there's a there's a sinister honesty to that. It's a thing that not many people would cop to, but there's a sinister nihilistic honesty to it that's beautifully presented here. Yeah, man, and the earlier ones, the the way you structure the Denethor poem is great. I love by the time you arrive at the end at the actual Lord of the Rings reference, I had forgotten to anticipate it. So I love that you open in the title with the reference, right? And it seems like it's going to be maybe not a funny poem, but it seems like it's going to be potentially a kind of comic poem. And then it is just the bleakest, saddest, most personal, heartrending poem like imaginable. And then you find your way back to the Lord of the Rings reference at the end in a way that's like simultaneously like heartfelt, but also like this really bleak punchline. It's so effective and it's such a good like representation of like a trick you use a lot in your writing that that's always effective, but that I think is particularly effective here. Anyway, this is great shit, man.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for letting me read.
And also, I hope you succeed at like at traveling through time and space and getting Lowell banned in the United States. That is a noble mission if ever there was one.
I should hope so.
All right, thank you, man. Okay, Artie.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
That's a big one to follow up from. Like honestly, like really shit. Like your work is that is it's so intense and so like it's just got such a cadence that I really appreciate. So it's quite an honor to follow you.
Thanks, I appreciate it, Artie.
It's yeah, you're great, man. So I'm gonna read for you guys. I'm British, by the way. I'm gonna read a short excerpt from one of my novels. I wrote like 4 novels last year, and I wrote another one a year before that, and there were 2 being published. One which is coming out this year, one which is probably gonna come out next year. So we got 2 in the works, but I'm not actually gonna read from either of the ones that are gonna be published in any sort of reasonable time frame. I'm just gonna read from my most recent one. The title of the novel is My Wall. It's strange to think that my friends love me. I really don't feel anything towards them other than a general familiarity and thus comfort, safety. But they don't really mean that much to me. I guess I used to care more, but everything has been swept away in grey emptiness. I used to have more rages, sometimes violent ones. I didn't need to be violent if I knew I could get away with it. My mother never stopped me hitting her, lashing her, beating her when she sent me into a rage. I hit and kicked Josie on several occasions and once cut her with a razor blade. She never told anyone. I was a lot more insane when I was Josie. And then the depths I reached through my time with Angela. But I'm more stable now, I think. Even through the hell I experienced chasing Angela, I stayed clean. Even if I'm not clean now, I am still more stable than I used to be. It doesn't entirely feel that way, but there's a sense of progress. Especially now that I'm writing again and getting positive feedback from my work, I need to be remembered amongst the greats, like Keats before me, except nothing less than immortality. I almost killed Josie a few times. I held back simply because I knew I'd be caught for it, even if I did it all sneaky. But I never cared for long enough to act. They were contained rages. Love isn't something I'm capable of, nor real affection. My love is violence, jealousy, paranoia, The me and Josie lasted 4 years astounds me. I eventually went to university, cheated on her a lot, and then dumped her over the phone after accusing her of cheating on me. I later confessed what I'd done, and in the aftermath, since she tried to come up to visit me, and I lied, and I said I already had another girlfriend. I later actually did have a girlfriend at university, but we weren't in love. It was just something to pass the time. And when we finished the course, we went our separate ways. I actually don't remember her name off the top of my head, despite us being together for like 2 years, like year and a half. People aren't really that important to me, other than Angela. But even she is being lost to time. 13 for now, then 14. Eventually, she'll be old. The being I knew will die and be replaced just as we all are in those brainwashing facilities. Only I survived. Only I survived the conditioning. I am as raw as I ever was here in the heat of things. During the pandemic, I made a Twitter account pretending to be a woman, getting thousands of likes for tweeting things like trans women and real women's experiences are fundamentally different. 10K likes. And sharing news articles about child genital mutilation, gore images and shit. They loved it. I even got a retweet from Graham Lennon once. He was a shit comedian, but at least he pissed freaks off on Twitter before he hanged himself. I get the desire of self-annihilation. Anyway, I wanted to see how far I could go posting pure gore before the stupid fucking bitches figured out what I was doing. Amazingly, they never did, or at least never cared. Few of them unfollowed me, no matter how extreme I got, as long as I was somehow making it about gender. Since it's true, all you have to do is say you're a woman, and that makes you a woman. That's what I did. Fucking dumb cunts. I don't even care about trannies. It's just funny how upset they get online. Everyone's a target. I wish I had that grenade gift back then. The one with the little kid pulling the pin on himself and just fucking exploding. A kind of fate than transition is what I title it. You know, to make those bitches clap. Just put that gift for the kid. You know, pulling that pin out, blown up. Kind of fate than transition. Women are the thickest fucking dregs on this planet. I've changed my mind. I want to kill a woman. Some dumb cunt. Eventually, you have to come to surpass yourself. Crush your own boundaries. All that holds me back is myself. Because I'm gracious. But why? If I'm rotten now, cursed, exiled from Angela's worthiness, why retain those boundaries at all? I should have killed women as a child. Probably easier to get away with then. But I felt a strange protectiveness over them. They were just bigger girls, older. That was all. But I don't see that to be the case any longer. Girls and women are not alike. The process that creates a woman makes her one and the same with every other thick bitch on the planet. A girl is eternal, yet destined to die. Only Angela will remain pure through it all. No. I know she too will be swallowed up by this world. Corrupted, used, fucked. And I not to do it. She will be taken, turned into a woman. A rejection of her youthful beauty. A rejection of her pure spirit. It is the Puella Eterna that I worship. The boss was right. I've retired the last knife for now, and I have more ornate yet fully functional piece with me, and I'm imagining slashing the throats of fellow passengers, etc. Just pass time, as I listen to Absurd's Morning Soul on my fake AirPods. I've always frequently imagined myself killing women, but when you're speaking to some fucking idiot and all you want to do is behead them, gender doesn't matter. I hate them all. I I could kill him. Probably not my next target though. Let's keep it simple. Routine. Next. I'm unshackled again, proud and searching. It wasn't so hard making home my turf. That guy I stabbed up was called Fami Bibi. Been saying a lot to myself, but it sounds so silly. Why'd you call he kept that? He was 32. Not big news. Killed and robbed. First one's always a freebie. Now that I'm at the pub, Damien gets around him. Julian also buys himself a gin and tonic. He's acting pouty for some reason and being glib, refusing to look at me when I talk to him. He's a child sometimes. So, hey, Alpha, says Damien. How you doing, man? Me? I say, yeah, man. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. You seem concerned. Well, yeah. Why? Well, it's the anniversary of your brother, you know. Is it? I say. I didn't realize. I don't think of my brother much because it was so long ago. I say 11 years. That long, says Damien. I'm surprised you remembered today. I say, I just got a good brain, man. He says, I remember where I was when your friend told me I was at my cousin's playing GTA. Like, I think it was on a mission with like maybe his cousin or something. I don't know, man. But I always liked Evelyn, you know? Evelyn, my brother. Named so because Dad prophesied him being a weak boy. Somehow, he was right. Evelyn was younger than me by 3 years. He was tall for his age, but very skinny, with hips like a girl. He always had his hair long. It was blonder and fluffier than mine. He got called he got called a girl more or less constantly, but he just giggled at it. I'm sorry, Arlen, says Julian, finally looking at me. He's clearly sympathetic now, but I don't feel that. I don't mourn Evelyn. It's just something I'm reminded of. We get more drinks in us. Damien talks about how good the booze saga is. I always saw myself in the Dragon Ball Z villains. Vegeta ego and his desire for more. Frieza, his coldness and brutality. Cell, the fact that he was just created to kill. And of course, Boo, a malformed child trapped inside you. Only wants to rip out and destroy. Conversation seems purposeless now, remembering what really stirs the soul. This legacy unknown to all. I killed even when I was with Josie. Even on a holiday when we went alone on together, right before university. You just spend some time in the environment, see the kinds of people around you, find the most vulnerable, seem the most desirable target. On the day or night before you leave, or even during the final morning, you strike, conceal the body so that it won't be discovered, hopefully until you're long gone. Maybe I would have killed Josie if I hadn't got the crucial releases. I've nearly fucked up my life more times than I can count. And if we count every impulse, every intrusive thought threatening to overwhelm my senses and dominate my body, the list becomes endless, impossible to inscribe. They've come this far not only not getting caught, but crucially, never having a substantial public breakdown shows genius and hard work. I'll probably never get caught. There's no reason for me to, unless they catch me red-handed. They never will. Because there's no pattern. There's no juicy modus operandi to trace. Just blades and garrots. No story. No threatening letters or gory messages. I don't even play around with the bodies much. It's not to say I don't want to. I do. You don't fucking get it. Patience and restraint it takes being me. I would love to get sick on a couple of whores, torture a whole family, forge my own signature weapon. It's not like the old days. How many did Bundy rack up? I don't have this solitary composure. I have friends and live with my father, so I can't even collect skulls and other treats. I don't even keep personal effects. I have a couple of trinkets, that's all. I wish I could play with blood, feast on remains for days, lie in the carnage and writhe around like a terrestrial arthropod. Usually, I throw stuff like wristwatches and wallets in park bins within brown paper bags, cut all cards to pieces and place them in another bag, separate bin. You know, it's not that hard to do what I do. It just takes a little thought. My friend's still talking, but I can barely hear them. Ugliness, beauty. These are the things I see everywhere, all at once. The world is impossibly gorgeous, infinitely corrupt. I think back to the first time I used a knife when I was 13. I was on a holiday in Cornwall. It was the day before we were leaving. I took a wander down the cliffs alone, playing with my knife, the one Mother bought me, staring at gulls, listening to the deep crash of the waves. I came across a boy, 10 years old. He had long brown hair and was wearing a blue raincoat. He was carrying a log, kind of androgynous. I stopped to talk to him, but he wasn't very responsive till I showed him my knife. He thought it was pretty cool. Said he wanted to shave down the log he found. Then I stabbed him in the neck. Ended up stabbing him all over as he tried to thrash about. I just wanted to see what different parts were like to perforate. The throat and face, I found them were best. I kicked his body off the cliff eventually and peered over to see it crash madly apart in the rocks below, scattering his ruined parts across the jagged stones and into the sea. Reds and blues. It didn't feel as good then as an act. And it didn't feel as good as it does now. Back then, it was a matter of knowing that I could do something. And so I did it. Whenever I think of this particular scene, I remember it from an angled distance with myself in frame. It is equally beautiful and ugly, great and horrible. Even if I feel nothing, I can appreciate aesthetics. Perhaps because I feel nothing, I can see ugliness as a neutral, natural counterpart to beauty, equally worthy of respect and admiration. So that is what I live to spread, beauty and ugliness.
Artie, that was fucking awesome. That was spectacular. There's a lot that I really love here. I want to talk about it a little holistically first, and then drill in on a few things that I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
First
totally.
of all, I love the way that you've developed and fleshed out this character, right? There's a lot of writing about sociopaths, and a lot of it, and often that writing makes one of two mistakes, right? Either it leans really, really hard into the idea that these people are entirely vacant, right? Like that they're just like empty machines driven by compulsion and impulse to kill. And the other is like to make them like, oh, it could be the guy next door, like it could be anyone. And you have like meticulously threaded that needle and created a character who is unequivocally a sociopath, right? Like unequivocally a sociopath, but does not seem like he's a plot mechanism or just like a bundle of like abstract like murderous compulsions or whatever. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, this guy is obviously just thrown together from bits and pieces from the DSM or whatever. But on the other hand, like this guy unmistakably has this carefully cultivated like sense of self and all of these different rationalizations and understandings for why he's behaving, how he's behaving, and also like clear blind spots, which is always like what you want to do when you have an unreliable narrator. Like let the audience see some things here and there that the person can't see about themselves. So all of that like in terms of the way that you've crafted the psychology of this character is meticulous. It's beautiful.
Thank
I want
you.
to talk about a few particular things though. I love the gore posting stuff. And I love it not
Yeah.
only because like it's a really sly satire of like how like turf discourse works, but also because like it's a really sly satire of how ideology works on the internet, period. Like how thin the line is between somebody being driven by principle and being driven by bloodlust. How like thin that the line between like seeking moral outrage and just like wanting to enjoy human misery and gore is. Like, and that's you would think like if you're thinking about it logically, you would say, well, those have to be polar opposites. Like you have principled people and then you have sociopaths. But in reality, like those pathological human impulses are often channeled through ideology. And you that whole section is just like pitch fucking perfect. Like so psychologically astute and so like sickly funny too, right?
Thank you.
Um
Thank you.
and the other thing, oh, the aesthetics thing. I want to talk about the aesthetics thing because I really love the, you said, I'm trying to think of the exact line, but the idea that like I might feel nothing, but I can still appreciate the aesthetics of the thing. And that's another thing that I think is really astute and not only helps to develop this character, but speaks to something about the arts and something about the desire to create art and the way that we use like art, even like perverse art or sick art, to fill a certain vacancy inside us, right? It's good shit, Artie. Thanks so much for sharing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Holy
Thank you
shit.
very much for your words.
I just wanted to say the William covered this a little bit, but the gore posting part made me fucking like almost fall off my chair. So that that was really
I'm
funny.
glad.
And just the idea, oh man, that everything about that is just immaculate. And I don't know, it's just really good. It's good. That's probably like one of the funniest, like weirdest gore posting stories that I've heard, and like to spin that tale in this piece is really like fits with the narrator and just exposes so much that like in a way that is really natural. That's the other thing I like is how colloquial and like conversational it feels. Where it's just like, yeah, this is just somebody talking to you like Kanye said, like you and me, pretty much. I love it. It's really good. It's really good, Artie.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's just I think it's about like 2,000 words from like my last completed novel.
Well, that was awesome, Artie. Thanks so much. And hopefully you'll come back and read again.
Damn right.
Awesome. So Michael is up next.
Cool. Let me just drop document in the thing. Cool. So this is a story that I started last summer after Gwen's reading in Chicago. Started as writing about, kind of factually the events of the reading, and then it turned into this. It's called America Bird. I was afraid I would die on the road to Chicago. Burning past Buffalo through the wildfire haze, I wanted to feel momentous, part of a final history, a mover in the American age of malaise, a reporter in the heat of the breaking news belching from the Quebecois forests, spotlit by a low and violet sun. But in reality, I was alone, 35, and afraid to die on the road to Chicago. Then a bald eagle flew through the window. The eagle's alabaster crown shone in the dying daylight, feathers brown like melted chocolate. Its talons chewed the leather seat. I waited for a lot of things to happen. All that happened was that I drove for 17 more miles to the next rest area, where I claimed a parking spot near the rear of the lot and considered the eagle. Can I help you? I asked. Stupid, yes, but the question felt warranted. Then the eagle sang, a strident, terrifying portamento. I clutched my ears and waited for my ornithological end. Quiet pooled inside the car. I looked up. Amber eyes tore me, exposed my lowest, most degrading fears. The irrelevance, the distance between me and those I know and love, the unsteady heart, how I might not live to see that beautiful poet back home again. Then I took a bag of jerky from the center console and peeled it open. raised a chunk of salty beef. The eagle blinked at the jerky before seizing the meat with its beak. I watched its cruel efficiency and chewed a piece of my own. Peace lingered as we emptied the bag. The red sun squatted against unfamiliar hills. The dashboard blinked and ate against dueling zeros. I considered the path to the hotel, then tugged the car into drive. The eagle settled down after a few miles. I tried not to wonder about the cost of leather repair. I mean, it's not every day a bald eagle catches a ride with you. I grazed the radio. The eagle flared at stations for techno, country, and bitter talk radio. It relaxed to some jazz, closed its eyes. Ornette Coleman bore us into Pennsylvania. I wondered if the eagle cared where I was going. A reading in Chicago, the next night and the next. A throng of writers and musicians for the renegade fall of America. 2 hours later, the car curled around a hotel's rear. I looked at the eagle. What to do? I mean, I couldn't leave the bird in the car. Streetlights betrayed the choking air. The hot summer night threatened its advantage if the AC died. The eagle raised its head, as if expectant of a plan. I got out of the car, came around to the other side, and opened the door beside the eagle. Out you go, little guy, I said. The eagle stared at me. I briefly considered risking the onslaught that would follow any attempt to lift the eagle or otherwise urge it physically out of the car. I gave up, returned to my seat, and closed the door. Then it came to me, the first mad etchings of an idea. Want to climb? I asked, then held my arm out. The eagle cocked its head and stared. Okay, that's not going to work, I said. Then I said, okay, let's try this. I stiffened my body and stared ahead unblinkingly. After a few moments, the eagle rose in the seat. Its eyes never left me. But the eagle's movements, the feather twitches, the talon tweaks stopped. The bird didn't so much as blink. Yeah, I said louder, and the eagle chirped and gripped the ruined leather seat. We understood each other, I thought. I mimicked immobility again. Then, carefully, in painstaking centimeters, I took the eagle in my hands, held it close, got out of the car, scooped my backpack from the rear, then paced a line of slow and anxious steps toward the hotel doors. Across the road rumbled a tavern, its outline neo-red. A pack of smokers heaped extra mouthfuls beneath a ragged awning. I kept walking and entered the cool, conditioned lobby's touch. The eagle made a soft noise, but remained inert. Cool bird, said the front desk guy. Thanks, I said, reaching for my wallet with my free arm. Never leave home without it. Who did the work? Oh, the restoration. It's really good quality, said the guy, and he leaned forward. I turned my body to prevent a closer look. Oh, I'm not sure. My dad gave it to me. Found it in a dumpster. Really lucky find. It's pretty clean for something you found in a dumpster. Don't I know it, I said. Our conversation waned as the guy chose my room. 2 beds in the far corner. The pulse of fireworks broke through the walls and the eagle stirred in my arm. I cleared my throat. Party outside? I asked, raising my voice. That bar across the way, said the guy. Fucking maniacs. 4th of July every night this week. I call the police, but they do nothing. It's too bad. I feel like a loser, getting upset, but you get used to the quiet. I know what you mean. The vulnerable moment, the weakness the guy betrayed, slipped into nothing. He handed me 2 key cards and pointed me to the elevators. Once the door shut, the eagle stirred. Talons tested the bounds of my flesh. I shuddered under the immensity of its strength, restrained, watchful. We rose through the bones of the hotel. Once in my hotel room, the eagle detached and drifted across the room to the bed, plucked and tore at the sheets. I cried out in approach, and the eagle snapped its beak at me. As if to say, I'm in control for now. The eagle continued to tear at the bed, as if the wet heart of prey lay inside the sheets. I imagined dollars pouring from sliced arteries, dropped my things by the door, and went to the bathroom. The mirror wouldn't reveal whether the wildfire smoke had aged me. I flashed my teeth and remembered I forgot to buy toothpaste. Another misstep on the road. I searched around the room and found in a dark and dusty corner the dead worm curl of a toothpaste tube. Above the sink, I squeezed it for signs of light. A tear of white squirted out. I rubbed it against my teeth, around my gums, the dry scrape of pharmaceutical mint. Then I stripped my clothes and stepped into the shower. The eagle stood perched in the TV when I left the bathroom. One of its claws punctured the dark screen. The eagle twisted its head and watched me pull clothes on my still wet body. I felt like prey, a cold and hollow wash. I imagine this is how the rabbit feels when it first spots a shadow circling on the grass. I decided to go to the bar. I finished dressing, pulled on my shoes, and headed for the door. A scuffle followed close. I turned to see the eagle. Its head was tilted with seeming curiosity. The eagle croaked, almost wantingly. I extended my arm, and the eagle climbed my leg and settled on the offered perch. All right, then, I guess we're going to go drink, I told the eagle. We left the hotel and traversed the toxic mouthful paces to the bar. Patriotic glam rock slammed against us when we entered the sweat breath swell of people. It made no sense how busy the place was, here on some highway flung tavern an inch from the map from Lake Erie. I pushed closer to the bar. The eagle chirped and tucked its head close to my shoulder. I tried to buy a whiskey sour, and the bartender, a middle-aged woman with gray hair tied up in a knot, put her hands on the counter and leaned forward. Is that a real bird or what? As I started to stammer and reply, the eagle raised its head to the bartender. Before the bartender could react, some drunk guy to my left leaned forward and shouted, "Hey, this asshole's got an America bird with him." "Eagle," someone else yelled. "An American eagle, or something." "America bird," the drunk guy repeated. "Somebody get this America bird a drink." The drunk guy tugged on my eagle-free shoulder. "Hey, buddy, let me buy your America bird a drink." The drunk guy took some cash from his wallet and crumpled the bills on the counter. "Some beer for this America bird," he said to the bartender. The bartender looked at me, and then the eagle, and then the drunk guy, and then his money. Picked up the cash, counted the bills, and took from behind the bar a small wooden bowl and poured some beer in it from the tap. As she poured, a crowd gathered around us, drink brandishing gawkers, sipping and watching and whispering about the eagle. The bartender set the bowl on the counter, and we all watched the eagle. "Go on, little fella," I said. The eagle clambered down from my arm and rested on the counter. It lowered its beak to the bowl of beer, considered it, and then began to lap up the beer with its thin, pink tongue. "America bird's drinking a fucking beer," the drunk guy shouted. The crowd clamored and cheered. The bartender poured my whiskey sour, and I took a greedy sip. Then I bought the eagle another beer. A woman in an American flag tank top pushed her way to the bar. She reached out and stroked the eagle's feathers. The eagle kept drinking. "This is the greatest July 4th pregame party I've ever been to," she said to me. Then she asked, "Is it safe to drink beer?" "I have no idea," I said. The bartender took her phone out of her pocket and typed. "There's a video on here about a crow that drank beer," she said. She held the phone up to me. A grainy news clip from the 1970s showed a black crow hopping around a bar counter and sipping mugs from beer. The crow knocked one of the mugs over and hopped around in the mess. "That's amazing," the woman said. We finished another round of drinks and then another. The eagle grew more comfortable with the music and the heat and the desire of some to reach out and touch it. Someone dropped their glass and the crowd laughed, and the eagle did too, hunched its body and croaked with delight. My head fuzzed, and I told someone I'd known the eagle since childhood, best friend growing up. "He's a real ball buster," I told the woman in the tank top. The eagle leaped off the counter and soared across the crowd, and everyone cheered. Then the eagle flew back and landed on me, dug its talons into my shoulders. I flinched, but the beer helped dull the pain. I felt too happy to worry. The woman asked if I wanted to smoke. I said yes, and she led me and some others up a narrow staircase to the roof. I barely noticed the smoke in the air. I took an offered cigarette. After a few puffs, the eagle shifted and croaked again. I turned my head, and the eagle was eyeing my cigarette. I held it up to the eagle. The eagle nipped at its end with its beak. Elation swelled inside me, and I laughed. "Okay, I definitely think it's bad for a bird to smoke," the woman said. "This eagle," I said, "this fucking eagle. You guys seem close. He saved my life." "How?" "Good luck. He's a good luck bird." "Okay." I wandered to the edge of the roof. The smoke in the air was still just as thick, but I noticed for the first time that I could see the vague etchings of light cast by cars on the highway, speeding through the danger, swiftly seeking home. The hint of forest stretched on forever. "That's beautiful," I said. "Look at this night. Beautiful." "Be careful over there," the woman called. I didn't reply, but I raised my hand to gesture with my cigarette, as if trying to wave my thoughts into focus. Invincibility, connection, America. I knew I had to do something to mark the moment. "Let's go for a flight," I told the eagle. "Just a little flap around." There was no doubt about the eagle supported me, believed in my ability to fly. We'd come too far together. The moment demanded we be airborne. I raised my arms and stepped beyond the edge. I remember the tumble, a shell from behind, the spin of my body, a harsh yelp, a furious flutter, a hot, wet crack in my arm, the pavement, a swift and concrete unconsciousness. I woke up in my car, sprawled in the back seat. My left arm, stiff and swollen, hung in a sling made from a bartender's apron. My lungs hurt. Everything hurt. I moaned as I grew more aware of my body. I sat up and saw that someone, the hotel staff probably, had collected my things and left them in the front seat. No note, just a swift and silent ejection. I remembered the eagle and looked around, but saw no sign of it. The world seemed clearer through the smudged windows. I saw houses and other buildings I hadn't seen before. After some time, I moved to the front seat and felt around my pockets. The wallet was there, but devoid of cash. Keys. My phone, the screen smashed to hell. I clicked on it and squinted at the time. 3 p.m., half the day, wasted. I should have been on the outskirts of Illinois by now. But there I was, wounded near Lake Erie, wondering about the whereabouts of the eagle. All I had were the remains of its presence. The ruined seats, the stray feathers on the dash, the scabbed over wounds on my shoulder. Signs, but not proof, of a profound and wondrous experience. I wished I had taken photos. I wished the eagle was still there with me. But if there was a point, maybe that was it. The eagle was always going to leave. We experience miracles until we don't. Nations have failed when faced with the question of whether that's enough. I started the car. The gas needle flicked up to the halfway point. Not enough to reach Chicago, not enough to flee back home. No digital map to guide me. But I had a destination, a westerly point, a daytime star. Skies clear for the first time in days. I'd survived the fall. I hadn't died on the road to Chicago. Not yet, at least. My body in revolt, I reached for the seatbelt.
Michael, this is fantastic. I love this story. This story does like what your writing does best, which is you marry a like unbelievable, borderline magical conceit to a really mundane story about like a very otherwise normal experience, right? And I love the way that you do that in this story in particular, like the way that like the presence of the eagle is questioned, but it's not questioned, right? Like it's questioned in the way that like people question any novelty when they see a thing and they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, how about that? And the questions people ask about it, like the moment where someone asks whether it should be drinking beer or not, and your narrator is like, I don't know, buddy. Like there are all these like funny, gentle little moments in this story, but the whole like propulsive thrust of it's just so magical and so beautiful and so rooted in like in real experience, right? Like this up until the moment where, you know, where the narrator jumps off the roof and to try to fly, we're wondering whether he could, right? And I love the way you deliver on that, the way that like that becomes the moment that the magic of all of this shit just breaks and reality just presents itself again. And I don't know, man, it's a wonderful story. I also have to say too, it's about fucking time someone wrote a story set during that period of time when the air was just like thick with otherworldly smoke floating down from Canada. Because, and I think I tweeted about this like at the time while it was happening, like that is nature rarely presents better opportunity, like better settings for stories than that, right? Like there, there have been few moments in my lifetime where nature or the world anyway, the universe has just naturally provided that kind of atmosphere. And it's good to see it in a story. And I think you utilize it really well here. This is a great story.
I appreciate that. No, thank you. This one, I've been trying to cook this one up for a while, so I appreciate the kind thoughts and the chance to read it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for reading. So, Colton's up next. Let me put the link in here.
All right, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, sorry, I'm in a pinball tournament right now. Let me see, what's my score? My score is pretty good. Is there any way you can stall for like 2 minutes, maybe?
Oh yeah, I can move you later
Sorry.
tonight.
Please,
I'll-
please do. I'm like
Okay.
almost done. Thank you. Will.
Okay. Okay. Good luck, man. Our thoughts,
I'm fucking trying.
thoughts and prayers are with you here. Okay. So if we move Colton down, Bizarre is up next.
Thank you. So tonight, I actually have a short story. I normally share poetry, but I wrote this the other day and thought I would read it. So this piece is called Circles. I saw my former best friend with whom I had a falling out. We had worked things out a few years back, but then she went to Boston for an internship and we hadn't spoken since. It's been over a year now, and I miss her all over again. She was my real sister. I'm sure if I reached out to her, she would be happy to talk. I don't know what I'm so afraid of. When she left for Boston, I gave her a copy of a book that's important to me, and I think she understood what this gesture meant. She has bangs now, and I wonder if she had seen a photo of me on social media. I've had bangs for years. They looked good on her. I let my mom cut my bangs in my dream last night. I let her roast me, let her judge my life decisions. She was right, but I told her that she needed to be kinder about it if she wanted me to be honest with her. Whenever she would cut my bangs as a child, I would somehow always end up crying. The act of cutting someone's hair is a kind of leash. My mom had always used that to her advantage. I couldn't go anywhere until she was done saying what she wanted to, lest I go to school with uneven bangs. Contrary to the short stories from disgruntled women like me that I read on literature sites, mothers are not the devil. I still don't think I'll have kids someday, but I would be a good mom. I saw my dad, and he saw me in NYC. We sat outside the building where I was staying in town. I guess he had gotten a new job there, but in person this time. He seemed content, calm, but he's also the type of man to put on a brave face through adversity. So I wondered if he was actually going through something in silence. I think he would have told me if I asked about it, but the timing didn't feel right. We sat outside the building of the hotel where I was staying, and that guy with whom I have kept in touch virtually over the years sat down on the bench with us, exchanging looks with me as I gazed down at my shoes. I wanted to ask him what that round building was across the way. I was admiring it, its windows, from my hotel room that morning in bed. And I thought about him because he lives in the city and he had told me about his recent breakup. He had thought she was the one, but in the end, they were just too different. He wanted to know why we hadn't met after all these years until now. I didn't have a good explanation except that I was afraid, self-conscious even. I had to postpone coffee with my best friend today because depression got the best of me when I woke up this morning. I'm so exhausted. I hope he doesn't hate me. We rescheduled, and I told him that I would buy him a coffee as thanks for understanding. The way insomnia can place a hand on interpersonal relationships is cruel and unfair. A close friend of mine invited me to be his +1 for his company holiday party. It's going to be at this beautiful hotel only a few blocks away from my apartment, so I don't have much of an excuse not to go with him. I know he wants to fuck me though. I've told him before that I'm not interested in a relationship, but I know he would do anything for me. It seems like it's all too often that this dynamic presents itself in my friendships. I've developed a sort of avoidant way of being because I don't want to lose friends over sexual rejection. I don't see myself as a victim, but it's frustrating. I think I should reach out to my friend with the bangs again. She would understand. Thank you. That's the end of it.
Bizarre, I really dig this piece. More than anything, I love the way this piece is structured. I love the way it's just like delicate, gradual unfurling of insecurities about interpersonal relationships. The way that like it's almost a list, but it's not quite a list, right? It's something more meticulous and delicate than a list. It's this kind of like almost very natural, very stream of consciousness, like unpacking, moving through these different relationships, these different relationships in the narrator's life and looking at each one, like putting it under the microscope briefly and and ultimately in each case finding something to be insecure about, right? Finding something that doesn't sit quite right, whether it's as simple as like your father, there was something going on with your father and you never took the time to find out exactly what it was. Like that sense of lingering mystery or the sense of there being just something off in your relationship with your friends, like that weird sense of the like quote unquote like friend zone thing or whatever, like the sense of there being a sort of like sexual or romantic undertone that's unreciprocated, excuse me, or just the other like or even the petty like I was late for this, I like or I slept in or whatever, like those moments, like you talk about the weight that insomnia has on relationships and like how that something that small also becomes this thing that has to be unpacked. And the way you do it in this piece, there are pieces about like neurotic self-reflection that can be very heavy, right? That can be very like carrying a boulder around. But this is an oddly light piece about that kind of self-reflection, about that kind of insecurity, one that just kind of bubbles over, that feels like a little gentle in its approach in a way that you don't often see in this kind of writing. So anyway, I'm rambling. The point is, it's a great piece. I really appreciate it. Thank you for reading, Pissar.
Thank you. Yeah, I started with the bangs and it just kind of descended from there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Oh, that is one thing I wanted to mention briefly is I loved the little section about like haircuts, just because I'm someone who has like a lot of anxiety about getting my haircut. There's this weird like sick intimacy to a haircut that I'm just totally unprepared for. Anyway, thank you, Bizarre. I appreciate it. It was a great reading. And Colton is up next. If Colton is in fact ready.
I'm gonna fucking try and do this. Okay.
Okay.
Let me get outside here. You shared the link. Can you share it again, please?
I
for
just
me?
did. Yep.
Oh,
I
you
just put it in again.
read my fucking mind. All right. Okay. I got inspired to write this piece when I was in a library, and there's this lady that comes in all the time, and I was like listening to her one day, and she was just like watching a video on her phone or something, and she would just like quietly, we're in a library, mind you, and like every like 20 seconds she'd be like, "Hey Siri, take a screenshot," and it was really like, it's not funny, but it was funny to me, so I wrote this. Let's see. This is, "Hey Siri, take a screenshot. Sunset clouds spread out like tiger stripes. Wired stereo earbuds that never fit right. Rifles but the door rusted by evening rain. Nerve blockers every 3 hours for pain. Frederick Colstow, the young carpenter, 1886. It's the feeling of sawing through wood. It's the feeling of holding a loaded weapon. It's the feeling of putting a knife against someone's cheek. It's the feeling of building a house for a family and then watching that same house burn down with the children and pets still inside. It's the feeling of looking at the sky and the sky looking back at you. It's the feeling of having an addiction to Ozempic. It's the feeling of smoking Faulkner's nosegay cigarettes. It's the feeling of wanting the feeling of security, but The TSA sucks my asshole, so I eat the apple like Eve. It's Christmas time. I live forever like Adam, naming all the animals. It's purely angel projection, nano emulsification. I'm going to create a snuff film where I torture people dressed like superheroes. Like, imagine Captain America tied to a surgery table hostile style, like the heavy riff from Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I use scissors to cut open Captain America's chest. I make him look down at his own insides, and I'll yell at him. Remember, this is what you're made of, you fucking engineered symbol. Optional cheers for Plunderphonics playlist. Watching the old guy at the park practicing his short putt while his son is at the trading off shorting a put option. Love 15. The gay Kroger. Testosterone pills. The drive to be a man. We'll never forget. Oh, yes, you will. Chile Earl and oysters. The clock goes tick-tock, and as the time pulls hairs out of my body, my cock. Kids in an industrial kitchen using one dry hand and one wet hand to egg wash rice balls and blended panko crumbs. Madame Annie Cook using her brothel to house the sick during the Memphis yellow fever epidemic of the 1870s. My worst fear is association and paperclips bent straight. Is that a cactus out there or a tall man staring back at me? What does a perfect being do in the real world besides eat Swedish fish? Snuffing out corporate goths and hearing Arena, I forgot how to say her name, Arena Sabalenka's loud grunts on an airport bar television. A lady named Asia going for a walk while wearing red sunglasses. You and your friends are all 10 years old. Shit, almost fell. You and all your friends are all 10 years old, naked in the public showers at the Sardis Lake camping grounds, walking on dirty tiles covered in hair and shit, looking for a clean stall to take a group shower. On your back, staring outward, sudden white lines poke through the sky. R.I.P. Tourette's guy. Hey, remember mylifeisaverage.com? Hey, let's listen to the Beatles, Kom Gib Mar Dein Hand, and look for meat extenders. In the city of Memphis, there are 100 tiger statues scattered throughout the city. Not to brag, but I've had sex with over half those statues. Within a Pace Arrow motorhome parked by the Mississippi River, there are multiple trash bags containing the chopped up remains of a woman who went missing on New Year's Day. The bags are stuffed in various luggage compartments. Taking part in a prophecy, iPad art by David Hockney, orange tum tablets broken in half at the drive-thru using the app. 4-ounce flour, 1 egg, olive oil, chicken hibachi, only broccoli and carrots for veg, 2 yum-yum sauces, gyoza and an amazing roll of chopsticks, slices of pear and ricotta on toasted bread, blueberries stuck together by gray mold, missing child found in wolf droppings. Add this to your dictionary, reimagination. I was born to be feral like a cat, alive at 2:45. Exploring the impossible sex fantasy made real in the movie Acting Out. Googling the natural end result qualities of a long-time decomposing body. Noticing the end of Seinfeld in 98 and the beginning of King of the Hill in 97. The United States versus Marine Corps, versus Microsoft Corps, decided 4 months before 9/11. I should probably put the Pepsi back, right? I don't want to overdo it. One time I worked with a black DJ named Art. I miss him. You're more than dead to me. Your face is mold and bone. Phoenix, Arizona International is a dementia-friendly airport. The Dutch and their fascination with nature and pickup sticks. Winter landscapes with faggot gatherers conversing on a frozen lake by Josephus Gerardus Hans, 1826 to 1891. Faggot gatherers beside a river by Jacob Jan van der Motten, 1820, 1879. Faggot gatherers by a rushing stream by Hendrik Pieter I want to say that's Cock, but I think it's Coco, 1843 to circa 1890. Faggot Gatherers, Moonlight, by Ludwig Muntz, 1841 to 1896. Grabs 4 piping bags of whipped cream and holds them in front of my belly. Hey, dude, look at my freaking milk udders. Check them out. I need to be milked, LOL. Finding non-human scratches on the back of your van. Geez, you never see houses getting TP'd anymore. The last time I prank called somebody, I called Pizza Hut and told the worker that my name was Sweaty Butts, and I only ordered 1 cheese pizza, thick crust. Texas ebony, blackstone daisies, fairy dusters with long fleshy stamens, golden eyes, and desert hackberries, all at the mercy of Mormon crickets. The old woman living in the shoe. Don't forget the men living under the stairs. I'm the Oz behind myself. Fair trade, yes, go tear yourself and take care of yourself. Take a second to think if those horrid experiences buried deep in the unconscious of every person sleeping near you. All of these people, like you, hope to die without ever having to relive shame again. Putting a beer bottle up to your eye and tilting your head back. Tethering the spirit of a sunbeam giant. I don't care what we do. Can we please go outside and spark up real quick? I'm about to fucking lose it over here. An ex-white supremacist trying to change his ways by leaving the Brotherhood and volunteering at a local community garden. But the gardener on duty doesn't get a briefing about the new volunteers. So after she sees Swastika tattoo, she tells ex-skinhead guy to put his tools and leave. Don't worry, man. I'm cool with the Portuguese. You know I'm talking about jellyfish, right? Oh, I don't think you're allowed to call them that anymore, dude. People will slip cliches at you until you finally look back at them with the same dead stare that they have. Germans putting together iron caskets in the shortcomings of the Irish lifestyle during times of stress. Are you the confident dog that barks at a full moon, or are you the hesitant dog nearby that barks when other dogs start to bark? Spoiler, you're the dog butthole scooting on the carpet in the house like a domesticated retard. When you choose to let the world hurt you, things won't go your way. Yik yak bomb threat. Bill Cosby blackface. I'm sorry. Have we met? The turn of the century exploitation of the American wigger. Hold on, wait. Let me ask Siri. Hey Siri, can you take a screenshot? Hey Siri, take a screenshot. Over and over and over again. All right, the end.
Colton, first of all, man, you did it. You made it.
I made it.
I could hear the urgency there. Man, you killed it, man. You absolutely killed this. There's one thing I want to talk about here because no, there are many things I want to talk about here, but there's one particular section because it dovetails with something I've said about your work many times, which I've talked about, like the way you use food and the way you juxtapose food images against other images. And you have like the example of that in this with the slices of pear and ricotta on toasted bread, which is like maybe like in terms of like concise short sentences, just about like the most delicious thing I've ever read, followed immediately by blueberries stuck together by gray mold, which is like viscerally, instinctively repulsive, right? And then somehow I was like, okay, well, like that's about as gross as this is gonna get. No, missing child found in wolf droppings. Those three lines, the progression of those three lines, man, is unreal, is other fucking worldly. It's so good. It's so good. And it's such a perfect encapsulation of like what you do well in your work on a larger scale. Like, and I've said this a million fucking times, man, but the like series of juxtapositions and the poetry of like interconnectedness and how like something like horrifying can like coexist like in the same like image as something delicious, right? As something like how like something provocative can exist with something mundane and so on and so forth. Like you do that exceptionally well in your writing, but that three-line example is, I think, one of the best instances I've seen yet. It's so concise, and yet the whiplash is so intense. And the decision to not just go from the most delicious thing ever to the most disgusting and horrifying thing ever, but to include it like a intermediary step there with the blueberries covered in mold. It creates like it's almost like this time lapse thing just across those three lines that I think is really effective. Anyway, man, I know you're still playing, right?
Yeah, so dude, this week has been nuts. So we've had like the craziest weather with like snow and ice, but we have the pinball state championship tomorrow, and of course today, my book got published, which is awesome. But I've been up here practicing
yeah.
all day.
Oh yeah,
Fuck
right.
yeah.
Fucking hey, man, yeah.
Good.
Congratulations.
Feels fucking awesome. I've been up all
Congrats,
night. Like I've been in my house just like drinking and smoking and watching MasterChef Junior like a madman. So like it's nice to see adults like that are talented and not being jealous of these like little kids. I watched a kid from Memphis he won MasterChef Junior, and so I'm like
Damn.
5 Miller High Lifes in, like I lost my writing contest. Fuck this little kid. I'm gonna go to MLC. They like me. My shit's good. So here we fucking
Damn,
are,
bro.
Yeah,
Anyway.
this place, I love the kitchen I work at has been closed for a week, and we were all like, man, we are so fucking burnt out. And then we get this week to just like chill. So I don't know. It's really nice to have this time off and just write weird, crazy bullshit about kids being found in wolf shit. So I don't know.
Well, man,
I hope to do
sweet.
more, and I thank y'all for having me.
Go rock him at that tournament, my son. Get him. Get in there,
Bro,
my
I'm
son.
trying to whoop some ass. It's not a ranked tournament, but it's a money tournament. There's like 20
Oh,
people,
shit.
$5 a piece. So I'm probably $100 over here. So
Collect that bag, my man. Collect that bag.
That bag.
Oh, kick some
Anyway,
ass.
everyone, like, check out Colton's book. It just dropped today. And if you're not sold on it yet, wait until next week because we are doing a whole fucking reading dedicated to
This
the book.
party.
So buckle up. Anyway,
Yo.
thank you, Colton. Knock 'em dead, man. So Michelle is next, closing out the night in terms of readings, and then we're going to play Troy's mystery video, and then we are going to close it out. So, Michelle, the floor is yours.
I
I
think
don't. Is
Michelle may
Michelle
have
still here?
fall off.
Did
may
she
have fell off.
did we lose her?
Oh.
She specifically asked to go last.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, why don't we do Troy's
Maybe we can play
video, and then if Michelle is back, she's back, and if she's not, so be it. I have to use the bathroom.
Am I playing the video then, or
Yeah, Hootie,
is
could you
Troy
play
playing?
it? I'm not.
I can play it if you want.
Okay. The link is in the document.
Okay. Roger. Hey Troy, any way you want to introduce this or something, or?
Nope, I think he wants us to live with the mystery. Let's see what it is. Oh, Rudy, are you still with? Oh, there we go.
May my entire family and everyone I've ever loved or liked be raped and tortured and killed with sheets and sheets of pain and blood. Make it take a long time and make them die with the most frightened faces. Make me watch this, please. Do not let me turn away, not for 1 second. Make all of my good friends kill themselves for immature reasons in their huge bathrooms, crying into their mirrors with lots of blood and pain and holding some bad album in their arms. Make it grueling and last a long, long time. Make it very embarrassing. Oh Lord, make me watch that too. Let my only child be retarded at birth, killing my wife during delivery so that I hate my retarded child and make his life even more miserable than the life of a normal retarded child.
Holy shit. Holy shit. Hopefully our video doesn't get taken down for that beat, but his is still up, so I think we're good. Man, that's awesome, man. R.I.P. Juan Carlo. But that was an amazing performance. I love the choice of beat and the way it was paired with the poem. It was really good shit. F's in the chat, you know? Yeah. Bizarre said that went hard, and I agree. It's it's sad that he passed when he did. Not that I think he was maybe a little bit too big to ever actually come to Misery Loves Company, but it's a shame that I never really did get the opportunity to hear him read or really have any kind of interactions with him. So yeah, anyway, rest in peace.
That went fucking hard.
It went hard as shit, right? Is Michelle back? I don't think so. I feel bad if Michelle shows up in a minute here, but oh well, she can read next week, or she can read during the after party if she wants, but I need to use the bathroom. And I think we're going to call this here. Thank you to everyone who read tonight. This was a phenomenal fucking reading. This is a reading of high contrast, don't you think, Rudy? The sheer variety of different pieces read, tonally, like in terms of content, in terms of structure and design. This has been a wild one, and I think that's pretty cool. I really appreciate that. So anyway, thank you to everyone who read. Thank you to Peter. Thank you to Kat. Thank you to Jan working into Rudy. Thank you to Rudy himself. Thank you to Artie. Thank you to Michael. Thank you to Bizarre. Thank you to Colton. Knock 'em dead, Colton. And thank you to Troy and Juan Carlo. And thank you to Michelle for signing up, even though you
Yeah.
didn't. Anyway, it's been a great night. Thank you, everyone. We do this every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and join us. Anyone is welcome to share their work. We tweet out the link just before we begin from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism. And yeah, tune in next week because we are doing a launch reading for Colton's new book, Abuser. So buckle up. All right. Thank you, guys.